Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here, and this is my Week 10 Team Builder in Battle for the BBL Season Number 2 versus the Lawrence Talonflames, coached by Garchomp the God, aka Austin. Make sure you go check him out down in the description below. This is the final week before playoffs, and so we're going to try and do our best here, but ultimately, like, our playoff spot is locked, and Austin cannot make playoffs, so it quote-unquote doesn't really matter. It does matter in the sense in terms of seeding, and I'll tell you why. So the number 1 seed is Gypsy King. He has a perfect record up to this point. We're in second place with our 7-2 record. Below me is Aaron and Panther, each with like 6-3 records. And then below them is JB Westside, Perfect Blue, Under the Radar. And then fighting for the last 2 slots in the playoffs are both Matt O'Shea and Sparks the God. And so the seeding here is kind of important. Everyone at this point is a pretty talented battler, right? And they have pretty scary teams. Even if the records aren't great, like for example, Matt O'Shea currently is in the 8th spot, but he has a Protean Grin on his team, which is pretty spooky for me. Sparks, if he is able to advance, he beat me earlier in the season. JB Westside, after we beat him in Week 1, has greatly upgraded his team. It's going to be a lot harder for me to fight. So there's no easy matchups. But most of all, I think I want to avoid 2 people, and that is, of course, Gypsy and then Under the Radar. Because I think they're the 2 most talented players in the league, with 2 of the scariest drafts in the league. So whatever I can do to avoid facing them would be great. Kelly, like, we're not sure what seed he's going to get. It kind of depends on the results of the lower games. Gypsy's the number 1 seed, so we're definitely not going to play him round 1. But if somehow I drop to the 4 seed, and like both Aaron and Panther are able to get ahead of me, if I then win my my round 1 match, like my quarterfinals match, it puts me most likely in a matchup versus Gypsy in the semis, which I don't want. So if I have to face Gypsy, I'd rather face him in finals, because at least I'll have made it that far, and I can say the semifinalist before I inevitably lose to him. But hopefully I also don't have to face Kelly. Maybe he lines up with Gypsy first, or something like that. That would be pretty good. So that's just kind of what I'm thinking here. Like, I'm just trying to look at the results of the other games, see how I can get the best matchup for round 1. So with that out of the way, let me quickly go over Austin's team. I'll bring my team up on the screen and let you know how it is, and then we'll hop into the battle. So Austin has Ash Greninja, Jolteon, Mega Diancie, Staraptor, Reshiram, Excadrill, Serena, Licky Licky, Araquanid, and Hippopotas. I think that's what it's called, right? It's not Hippowdon. I think it's Hippopotas, however you say it. So he has 2 things that are very threatening versus my team. He's Ash Gren, which is really scary just because my water resists are not great. It's pretty much just Primarina and Trevenant. Anything else gets bodied by it. Diancie is relatively scary, but I do have lots of Bullet Punch users, which is pretty nice. And I have a Pokemon in Arceus that definitely outspeeds. And I've got a Pokemon in Heatran that resists its stab moves relatively well. It obviously doesn't resist Diamond Storm, but if it's like more invested into physical attack, it's obviously not invested into special attack as much. Besides that, Sand is also very, very scary because my ground resists are pretty poor. It's pretty much just Trevenant. I have a couple of flying types, but my flying types are bad. Like Archeops obviously takes super effective coverage from Iron Head, super effective damage from Iron Head. And then Xatu just isn't bulky enough to deal with Drill in general. Like Iron Head easily 2 KOs. So you see Trevenant on my team. This is the first time I brought Trevenant so far this season, so that's pretty fun. I thought it'd be good to bring it just so I could say I brought it at least once this season, and it justifies the 3 points that I spent on it. But anyway, let's go over this team. Heatran is our first member. Pretty standard looking set, Stealth Rocks 3 attacks. We're packing Shuca Berry, not for Drill. We don't live a Life Orb EQ from Drill with Shuca Berry. It's more for Earth Power on Diancie. And then we can go for a pretty powerful Earth Power of our own versus that thing. Lava Plume hits everything not named Reshiram or Araquanid or Diancie. So yeah, Earth Power is there for Reshiram or Diancie, and then Ancient Power is there as our hardest hitting move for Araquanid. Yeah, Shuca Berry also helps with Earth Power Reshiram, is worth stating. Yeah, we just a mixed defensive spread this week. Having some defensive investment as well helps with something like Staraptor. We do resist the dual stabs of Staraptor, but Staraptor can still definitely be scary. Next, we have a funny-looking Medicham spread with 2 fighting moves, plus Rock Slide and Bullet Punch. So, Drain Punch with this SPDF investment is meant to live a Choice Specs Dark Pulse from Ashgren after rocks, and then we easily take it out with Drain Punch. So it's a little bit of a lure, which is a funny thing to say about Medicham. But that's what we've gone with. Rock Slide is our hardest hitting move for Araquanid. He doesn't really have fighting resist outside of Araquanid. Yeah, he just doesn't, like, period. I guess he's got, like, Hippopotas, but that doesn't really do that much damage. So we didn't need any Psychic coverage this week is what I'm saying. And then Bullet Punch is there just for priority versus Diancie, Staraptor, other things that are generally annoying and scary. Then we have Arceus Dark with a bulky spread with Earthquake and E-Speed. Earthquake and E-Speed hits pretty much the whole team. Like, the only Earthquake resists that he have are Serena and also, Staraptor. Staraptor doesn't really like taking E-Speed. And then, like, Serena can take E-Speed because it has the Queenly Majesty ability, but we have some good switch-ins for Serena, so it's not that big of a deal. Oh yeah, and we just have to defog on here. I don't want to get caught off guard by something like Sticky Webs, so that's why we're packing defog this week. This thing is bulky enough to take hits from pretty much anything not named Diancie or, I guess, like a Banded Staraptor. He doesn't have a fighting type on the team, which is pretty nice for us. So yeah, and like Araquanid obviously is going to be a little bit scary with its bug type coverage. It doesn't hit as hard as its water type moves, of course, but anyway, yeah, so it's just basically trying to survive hits from Diancie, or, you know, basically just trying to dodge Diancie. But because we are faster than it, we can hit it up with EQ and do a pretty decent chunk of damage if we need. If it's not in range, then obviously we'll have Heat Train to switch into. Then we have a pretty standard Primarina set, dual stabs plus Aqua Jet plus Encore with a Kebia Berry that's there for Ashgren because it's very likely to just be packing Gunk Shot coverage for Primarina. And Encore is there just to be annoying versus Licky Licky versus Hippopotas and things like that. Araquanid as well. This is a pretty good switch in for Araquanid. Like, if we can lock it into webs or like a bug type move or something like that, it's definitely pretty nice. So pretty standard. Like, Aqua Jet's there just as extra insurance for Excadrill. We can probably take one EQ from Excadrill, but definitely not much more than that. And then, yeah, Aqua Jet is just there for a little bit of super effective stab, so that's nice. Even if it's not off of a very large attack stat. Then we have Treebeard, Trevenant making its season debut with a sub-seed set with Colbur Berry. So Colbur Berry is definitely kind of funky on like a sub-seed set. I much rather would have run like a berry of some sort, especially to combo with Harvest. But I felt Colbur Berry was necessary just to try and deal with the threat of Greninja. So I think we can come in on rocks twice and still live a Specs Dark Pulse with this spread, and then do a ton of damage back with Horn Leech. I think we kill after hazards with the expected investment that I have. I did at one point have Rock Slide over Will-O-Wisp in this last slot just to do as much damage as possible to Staraptor, but Will-O-Wisp was a last-minute change. So that was, I think that's a pretty good tech just for, you know, switching in. You know, if he switches in like anything that can take a grass type hit like Serena or Staraptor or things like that, it'd be nice to catch it with that Wisp. Then last but not least, we have a Scarf Guard Chomp. Pretty standard looking Chomp. I've brought this like 3 or 4 times this season. I just want it as insurance for Scarf Reshiram. I want it to be able to outspeed Ashgren. That's not with rocking a Choice Scarf. It outspeeds Scarf Staraptor as well, for example. It doesn't outspeed Excadrill in Sand. I don't even know that if we take one hit from Excadrill if it's in Sand, to be honest, just because that's how strong Excadrill is. But otherwise, you know, this is a fairly good safety net versus his team. So that's going to do it. Now let's flip on over to the battle, where you can see Austin has brought his Araquanid, Ash Greninja, Reshiram, Hippopotas, Excadrill, and Staraptor. So no Diancie is a very big relief. I'm not surprised that he didn't bring that, because like I said, I've got double Bullet Punch on the team. I've got Heatran to tank hits and things like that, Scizor, etc. So it's still a relief not to see it, though. Didn't bring some other things that were potentially annoying, like Jolteon. But the Greninja, of course, I knew was going to come. Araquanid is pretty annoying. He doesn't have like a Dark Resist on his team, but Araquanid is relatively bulky, and like I said, it does have super effective stab for Arceus, so it's potentially going to be his Arceus check. So if I can whittle that down, he doesn't really have a way to beat Arceus at that point, so that's pretty nice, just with the bulky spread that I have. I guess he could have like low kick on Gren, but because it's not Protean, low kick doesn't really do that much, unless he's like a Choice Band or something like that. Maybe Life Orb would do a decent chunk of damage, so I just have to be aware of what sort of set it is on Gren and play accordingly. The biggest threat, I think, is going to be the Sand, just because, like I said, my ground resists are pretty weak. Trevenant doesn't really want to take Iron Heads, especially if they're boosted. So, at least on the bright side, Hippopotas can't really run Smooth Rock reasonably, because it wants Eviolite. And then, like, that's his best switch-in to Medicham. So, without Eviolite, he's obviously not a switch-in. So, yeah, I don't really have any other thoughts about this. I'm trying to remember what I guess Arceus was my lead because it's the Pokemon that's up at the front. Yeah, I just thought Arceus led pretty well versus anything that's not named Araquanid. If you did want to lead Araquanid, I can switch out versus that into like Primarina or into Trevenant or things like that. So yeah, let's just go ahead and click play. Wish good luck, have fun to Austin, and hope that we can have a nice fun battle. Like I said, the result ultimately isn't that important because we make playoffs no matter what. But I'm hoping that we can get a good enough result so that we get the seeding that we want. So I do lead with my Darcius, as he does lead with the Araquanid. And so not a great situation for me because I don't want to take a Leech Life. I'm going to go into my Trevenant first because my Primarina, I want to try and preserve its health for, mostly for Gren, also for Reshiram. It's a pretty good Reshiram response. Not that I really want to take much damage on my Trevenant either, because if I do that, then that means that I can't really deal that well with Drill. But, you know, you kind of have to, like, make your choices, right? I didn't have a great choice in that situation. But he is going to switch on out into his Reshiram, which is normally pretty scary. But luckily I do have the Leech Seed to chip it down with time. And so it's going to get me quite a bit of recovery, get me back up to, like, maybe 80% HP. That's pretty nice. This thing is very scary versus my team. I'm just going to go into the Arceus here because it's relatively bulky and can tank almost any hit from this thing. He throws out the Blue Flare, and it's going to do like half, which is pretty damn scary. Doesn't even show like Life Orb or any sort of other boosting item, so that really terrifies me. But I'm just going to go for a Recover here because I can get back up to a good amount of HP. And with the Leech Life, we are slowly wearing him down. And it looks like with the combination of Leech Seed plus Recover, we're going to be able to stall him out. He does miss a Blue Flare, which really sucks for him, because it allows me to sort of speed up this process and throw off an EQ. He does show the Shuka Berry, so that's a nice tech on his end, because it beats things like my Heatran with the coverage that I could pack for it. You know, like Earth Power is my best coverage move for Reshiram. He's going to take it as an opportunity to go for the Flame Charge, which in a normal circumstance would be pretty scary, but because I was just able to throw off that EQ and get a little bit more of Leech Seed chip on him, it means that he's going to be pretty weakened. I throw off an E-Speed because I thought, you know, maybe he's in range, or maybe I can get a crit on him with the E-Speed to take him out before he gets another hit on me, but it doesn't end up happening. I think the better play would have been to Recover again and then go for an E-Speed once he's in range from Leech Seed. So, unfortunately, that means that my Arceus is a little bit more weakened than it otherwise should be. So he goes into his Hippopotas, which is not really a threat to me. I'm going to take this as an opportunity to recover and get back up to the maximum of HP, since, like I said, I didn't use that exchange extremely well. He's going to roar me out. You know, just I guess in case I was some sort of SD variant, he didn't want me to be setting up, so I get that. But unfortunately for him, he roars me into like the best possible thing for me, which is the Trevenant. And I think I just throw off the Leech Seed once again, just to try and get a little bit more recovery. I thought that would be useful in case he stayed in with the Hippopotas and decided to roar again, just because then whatever comes in next gets the recovery. Another option would have been to go for the Will-O-Wisp, which would be annoying for Hippopotas as well. But it would also cover something like this Staraptor switch. And so it's not bad that I got the Leech Seed onto the Staraptor, but Staraptor is still definitely annoying. And I'm going to switch into Heatran. Heatran is not nearly as pressured in this match anymore because the Diancie didn't come and now the Reshiram is dead. So I'm pretty comfortable bringing it in on the Staraptor. And he's able to U-turn on into his Araquanid, so definitely not an amazing situation for me. A Liquidation from this thing could definitely take me out, so I'm not going to stay in. I'm going to instead go into my Primarina, which is, it's a little dicey, just because I'm now letting my Gren check go down, and I don't really have a better response for it. I mean, I do have Darcius, which should be able to take one, and then go for an EQ into E-Speed, which will do a lot of damage. So I just have to be very careful of that. But otherwise, I didn't have a way to deal with this Spider. Like, getting rid of Spider is good for Darcius overall, so I think it's worth it. He now goes for a P-Jab versus my Primarina. It doesn't do that much damage because of my Cappy-Berry, but he does land the poison. Which stinks, because then the poison damage is going to put my Primarina in range of the next poison jab. So I could have potentially killed this thing with a total of 3 Moon Blasts, but I'm only going to be able to land 2 of them, which is going to leave this thing with a little bit of HP. I mean, ultimately, it's not the worst thing, because now I can just go in and I can revenge it with my Medicham. It just would have been nice to maybe have my Primarina, and it could force something else in here, right? Like, maybe he could go into the Staraptor and guaranteed kill me with, like, Brave Bird or something like that. And then he's locked into Brave Bird, and I can safely go into my Heatran. And he has no more, true fire resist. He has Gren, but Gren's not really a fire resist. Obviously. But anyway, I go into my Medi. I know that HJK is going to be able to kill this Araquanid pretty easily. I do get the crit, but I don't think that mattered at all. And he's in a little bit of a scary spot. Like, he can go into Gren, but like I said, like, I'm EV'd to live a Specs Dark Pulse from Ash Gren. He's still in his regular form, so he doesn't have quite the power boost. So we could basically take one of anything from Gren, and then we could follow up with the Drain Punch and get all of our health back. But he goes into his Hippopotas. I think we probably could have done a lot of damage with High Jump Kick, but there's no reason for me to do that when I can just go into my Trevenant very easily. This is the same situation that we were in 2 turns ago, or not 2 turns ago, like a few turns ago. And this time I'm going to elect to go for the Will-O-Wisp. And this time I do catch that Staraptor once again, so I'm being, I'm pretty in a pretty good position, having punished the Staraptor for switching in on Trevenant. So I still don't want to take a Brave Bird. So I'm gonna switch into my Garchomp. Garchomp is also a decent middle ground in case he predicts my Heatran coming in. Like, Heatran, I guess it doesn't, like I said, it's not super valuable defensively at this point, but at the same time, Garchomp doesn't need HP in order to be effective. It just needs to have enough health to live Sandstorm turns. It does predict my Heatran to go in, and it throws off the close combat. So, nice play for him, like 9 times out of 10, but because I made a mid-ground play and went to my Garchomp, it didn't really work out for him. But I'm thinking that he might switch out with his Staraptor. And I go for an EQ, but actually just stays in and goes for another CC, showing that he's pretty much willing to sack this thing. So, kind of over-predicted, and now it's tough because I'm locked into EQ and I can't hit this thing. And so, like I was saying, I don't need health, quote-unquote, on Garchomp, but if I continue this exchange, I am not going to end up with any health. But because he's looking like he's choiced at this point, I can pretty easily go back into my Trevenant. And dodge the CC since I am, of course, immune. And then he's not going to stay in at this point. I think I go for just a Leech Seed. I'm not 100% positive what it is that I end up going for. Maybe I think I went for a sub, actually. Let's see. Yeah, I do go for a sub. I think maybe just going for Leech right away would have been better. Because, like, this thing does have Roar. I just wasn't expecting him to go hard Hippo in this situation. Because it doesn't really deal with any variant of Trevenant. And then I go for a Leech Seed here. Like, Leech Seed is nice so that whatever comes in next gets a little bit of recovery. But I should have gone for a Horn Leech just to maximize my amount of recovery, to maximize the damage on this Hippo. And then, like, having a little bit more health on Trevenant would put me in a little bit better situation versus Excadrill. Because right now I'm at a range of HP on my Trevenant where I can't really deal with Drill. So basically, I just need to eliminate this Hippo in order to beat Drill. If I can't do that, then I don't win. It's as simple as that. Because Tran gets Whirlwinded in here, and I do have the Shuka Berry, I decided that I might as well just get up Rocks, because that kills the Staraptor upon entry. And then I can live the EQ and throw off a Lava Plume versus this Hippopotas. which is pretty nice. Like, the longer I can keep this thing in here, the better, actually, because that means then that it is not... that means that he has fewer turns for drill, so that's definitely pretty nice. And then, so finally, he's going to switch on out and just sack the Staraptor as I go for the Lava Plume. So, yeah, him preserving the Hippo was pretty smart in that situation because, like I said, drill is his clear win condition at this point. So, now he's going to go straight on into that Driller. And yeah, I don't have a switch in for this. I'm just going to let my Heatran go down because it's not super valuable at this moment. So that is going to take me out. That's going to put me down to 4 Mons in the team. I have Arceus, Medicham, Trevenant, and Garchomp left. But luckily for me, he does run out of sand turns here, and I can just go right back into Medicham. And I think I just throw off the Drain Punch because it would kill the Drill and has a 100% chance to hit. He's going to switch into his Hippo, but the thing about this that's actually kind of nice is that I can, like, so this thing doesn't really threaten me that much, right? So I can just stay in here and try and waste as many sand turns as possible. So I think I go for a second Drain Punch on this next turn, but then I throw off a Rock Slide just to try and have as few sand turns up as possible. Because if I take this thing out in 2 turns instead of 1, he has 1 sand turn left. No, sorry, he has 2 sand turns left. He can go into Drill, he can take out my Medi, I can go into Trevenant, sack it off, and then sand is over. And I can just go into Scarf Chomp and basically win the game from there. So that's hopefully that explanation makes sense. I'm just trying to make this exchange take as long as possible. I'm not even sure actually that I went for a Rock Slide there, but like basically I could have killed it in 1 hit with like HJK, but instead I went for a Drain Punch to try and again stall out as many sand turns as possible. Now he goes into Drill, like I said. He's just going to throw off the EQ. I definitely can't live at this range of HP. I guess I could have gone for like BP just for chip damage, but in case this guy's a madman, I wanted to go for SD. I wanted to just click Drain Punch. I guess it wouldn't have mattered, right? Because like I said, if I'm in this situation where sand runs out after the Trevenant goes down, it doesn't matter if he has boosts or not. I'm going to be able to kill with Garchomp. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to sack off Trevenant. He's going to go for the Iron Head. And that's going to go down. So Trevenant actually did a decent bit of work this week. I was pretty happy. It was annoying for a lot of members of his team. Wore down Reshiram. Got a bird on Staraptor. Really did a good job. And yeah, so now sand runs out. Garchomp comes in, and yeah, I just pretty much click EQ, and that's it. It's going to easily take out this Drill. How much damage it does versus the Gran is going to depend on its spread and on rolls and things like that. But even if he kills me with Ice Beam, I can very easily then go into Darcius and follow up with a E-Speed and kill it, so that's no problem. If he's like Scarf or something and he outspeeds my Gren, then he's not going to be able to do like he's not going to be able to do any appreciable damage to my Darcius because I'm max HP. So I can just like basically go for Recover and EQs until it's in range of E-Speed. But yeah, he actually shows the Ice Punch, which means that he's going to go down to the Rough Skin damage. And it's going to end up being a 1-0 victory for your boy Choice CJ. It's going to bring us to an 8-2 record on the season. And it does secure us that number 2 spot. So the way that the seeding ended up working out was Gypsy 1, CJ 2, Panther 3, Aaron 4, 5 was Blue, 6 is, shoot, I can't remember, Matt. I think Matt is 6. 7 was JB Westside, and then 8 was Under the Radar. So we go up versus JB Westside in our quarterfinal match. We do not have to play Under the Radar. We don't have to play Gypsy in a potential semifinal matchup. So I got pretty much the perfect scenario. If Kelly Under the Radar does somehow knock off Gypsy, I think then like us being the highest seed, we would play him in the semifinals, which isn't amazing because I don't want to play Kelly. I think he'll beat me. But otherwise, it's basically everything that I could have hoped for. So please, send us all of your best luck. Send us all your run good for this potential playoff run. We're gonna try and get to finals and catch another dub in championship. Be nice to continue our streak since we did win UBL at the end of last fall, at the start of last winter. So that felt really good. We'd definitely love to have another championship, but realistically, there's just a ton of tough competition. So we'll do our best, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm just hoping to have a good time, show off some fun sets, and make a good run. So, but yeah, like I said, if you could just, send me all of your best wishes and good luck. And if you want to keep up to date on the Baltimore Oriolus playoff run, make sure you drop a like on this video and drop a sub so you can stay up to date on the BBL action and all of my other latest and greatest Pokemon gaming content. So until next time, thank you guys. I will see you guys later.